the SAT subject tests went... Let's talk about it. What is good, guys? This is going to be a video that is a little now into the video. The other one's a little more choppy perhaps, and that's only because very recently, literally one day ago, College Board announced that they're going to be doing away with their subject tests as well as the optional section of the essays on the actual SAT. Now, this is pretty big news because College Board hasn't made a decision like this without just slowly fading it out in probably forever. I mean, it was on the front page of my newspaper today, so I'm assuming it has a lot of impact on students' lives across the world. And you might be wondering, how does this change the application process for you? So, I'm here to talk about that. This video is going to be split into 3 different categories. Number 1, I'm going to quickly explain what exactly it is that College Board did. Number 2, we're going to be talking about why College Board did it and their intentions with doing it. And number 3, and most importantly, what it means for you and what is the future of standardized testing when it comes to applying to the US or any other university abroad. Let's get into it. Before the video started, I just wanted to let you know that I am going to be attending the Get Ready with College Fair again on the 26th of January. It's an event where you can meet different admissions officers, admissions representatives, college students who have tons of opportunities for high schoolers, and you get to meet me as well. So if you're interested, sign up with the link in the description and I'll see you there. Now into the video. First things first, what exactly did College Board do? The basic thing that they did was rule out the subject tests as well as the optional section of their SAT. So if you're currently living in the United States, the next date for the subject SAT, which was going to be May 8th, is no longer available. If you're an international student, there are 2 things that you can still do. Number 1, you can still take a subject SAT if you have registered for it, and the next 2 dates are going to be May 8th and June 21st of 2021. Or 2, you can ask for a cancellation of your subject SAT test and you will be given a full refund. You might be asking, why did international students get an opportunity to take the subject SAT when US citizens did not? And that's only because international students also use the subject SAT to applying to colleges in the UK and in other places, even for high school, for example. So it is a critical part of their application process, so they still do get one shot at it. Whereas in the US, for US colleges, College Board has reached out to them personally and told them that they're discontinuing the subject SAT test and they can choose what to do with the scores that are coming in. They can choose what to do with their policies, because there were a few universities that did recommend subject SATs pre-COVID, which was Georgetown, for example, or Harvard University. These are universities that recommended that you do take subject SATs to show some specific knowledge and subject expertise. On the other hand, the SAT optional essay was just something that was a part of the entire SAT test, and that will be ruled out as well. It was fairly controversial and it really didn't do a great job at assessing an individual's ability to critically think and put their arguments together in a coherent manner. So it really didn't add too much value to the application process. Now, let's come to the second part, which is why did College Board take this decision? And there are 3 main reasons. Number 1, it just wasn't economically viable for College Board to continue running the subject SATs. The reason for that is if you look at a predictive model of the amount of test takers that you can see for the subject SAT compared to the AP, which is the Advanced Placement Examination, another core offering of College Board, you're going to see that for the subject SAT, you have about 400,000 test takers, while for the AP, you have a number that's crossing 4 million. So if College Board had to decide which revenue stream is much more optimal for them, which revenue stream should they invest their time and resources into, the AP is definitely a much more viable option for them. On the other hand, they also want to try and reduce the amount of pressure that's there on test takers across the world. The subject SAT at the end of the day is just another barrier for students to try and cross when it comes to the college application process. Because some universities like Georgetown University, Harvard University do recommend that you take subject SATs. And the third reason is the fact that there is a lot of structural inequality that comes around with standardized testing. Because at the end of the day, how you perform on the test is not really an indicator of your ability, it's about how well you've been trained to take the test. And this is a big deterrent for a lot of college applicants who come from socioeconomically weaker backgrounds. It does serve as a major hurdle to applying to college. So they're definitely trying to do away with that. But in my honest opinion, I do feel like the impact of this decision is going to make things trickier for college applications and college applicants as a whole, especially if you're an international student. Let me explain why. Let's look at the United States, for example, or India, for example. every high school in the country is going to be grading its students in a different way. So if you look at CBSE, for example, or ISC, for example, we all come under a greater national curriculum, but every school will grade someone a different way. Heck, every teacher will have a different method of grading, because at the end of the day, there are individuals involved in that process, and bias can always seep in whether you like it or not. And especially because of COVID-19, a lot of students have gone online, which means things like cheating, things like taking support from your other friends in the classroom have all increased in a rampant way, which means that a lot of the GPAs that students are getting right now are not wholly representative of their actual academic ability. In those cases, standardized testing was really the only thing that tries to evaluate you at one level. Now, I understand that you might say that, oh, but students can be trained to take that test, or, people can just become better test takers. But at the end of the day, it is still the best thing that we have when it comes to putting students on an equal parameter. Yes, it can be improved in many ways, but as of now, it is really the best bet. Number 2. There is going to be a flow at the end of the day. The amount of test takers who were taking the subject SAT, which is 400,000, was still a substantial number of test takers, and that desire to add another layer to your college application to try and make it more impressive or try to make it more academically verifiable is still going to be there in these students. They're still going to want to do something. And if you're in India, that's going to become the APs, which is a college level examination that students in the US can take for an advanced level course. The problem is most high schools in India do not offer AP examinations, and a lot of these courses are definitely more advanced than what you would get in a subject SAT. So the resultant flow of the amount of effort that was being put into subject SATs, for example, is now going to go into APs. And lastly, that does beg the question, what is the future of standardized testing? Are standardized tests going to be phased out because a lot of colleges have gone optional during COVID-19? And in my honest opinion, no, I don't think that they are going to be going anywhere. Because at the end of the day, even though a college application or a really good college applicant will get in because of their extracurriculars and because of their essays, you still do need a benchmark number that evaluates them and quantifies the work that they've done. Because without that, college application readers are going to have such a hard time trying to determine who gets in and who gets out. The point of removing this standardized test in particular was to reduce a barrier to entry. But let's say tomorrow you reduce all barriers to entry. You don't have to take the SAT, you don't have to take APs, you don't have to take the subject SAT. The amount of college applicants that are going to apply, each with their own unique story, their own unique extracurriculars, their own unique essays, is going to be so large. In that situation, in that society, how are you possibly going to decide who to reject and who to accept in a way that is efficient on time, but is also just fair? Because at the end of the day, a college is an academic institution where you have to perform academically. So in that situation, what are you really going to do? So no, I don't think that standardized tests are going to be changed. I do think that if you're in an international applicant or if you're applying from India, for example, you're going to have to add some academic layer on top of the SAT or ACT to stand out. And I feel like that is going to end up being the APs, which is going to increase pressure. But if you are one of those students and you've realized that now you're going to have to take the APs if you're in 9th grade, 10th grade or 11th grade, I would definitely suggest the main source of help that I had, which is Tutela. And I'm going to be putting a link for them down in the description. They were probably the most support I could get for my ACT, for my subject test, for my APs. That's everything I have for this video. I'll see you next week. If you have any questions, drop them below. Bye.